If we could lower the lights a little bit.
This is a concussion. A concussion is a type of brain injury. You can't see it. You may not have a bump, a bruise, or even a scratch on your head. All that has to happen for you to get a concussion is for your brain to move around inside your skull. You don't even have to get hit on the head. A jolt or hard slam to your body can make your brain bounce back and forth against the inside of your skull. Getting a concussion doesn't always mean you get knocked out. Less than 1 in 10 people who get a concussion ever lose consciousness. And you can get a concussion in any sport or physical activity, even skateboarding, biking, or snowboarding. The number of sports and recreation concussions every year could be as high as 3.8 million. That's more than the total number of hairs on every monkey ever shot into space in the last 50 years. So what do you do if you feel like you've got a concussion? You could have symptoms like confusion, headache, dizziness, nausea, fatigue, or a general foggy feeling, like your brain has a bad Wi-Fi connection. It's important to report it to your coach, your athletic trainer, your parents, or even a teammate right away. Otherwise, you may end up like Mike. Mike played football. Mike was the team's star player. But after he got a concussion, he continued to play as if he was okay. Bad idea. Since then, things got kind of funny. We thought he was fine, but Mike started having headaches and had a hard time doing the things he used to do, like playing video games. Mike should have told his coach, athletic trainer, or parent and got himself out of the game right away. If you think you may have had a concussion, it's important to see a doctor or a medical professional with experience in sports concussion and not return to activities until they say it's okay. Your brain needs to rest in order to heal. If you don't rest, you could wind up like Jessica. Jessica was an all-star softball player, straight A's, busy social life. In her last game, Jessica slid head first into home plate, and her coach took her out of the game because she thought she got a concussion. But she didn't make the right decisions after the game.
It's a pretty good video, right? It was made by a couple of guys that design video games. So following that, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Chris and have him tell you his story.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris. I'm a sophomore at Yale University, and I just want to come here and kind of share my experiences with concussions. I've played football since I was in 5th grade. I played all through middle school, and I absolutely loved it. But when I was your age, we didn't know much about concussions, or we weren't educated about them. So I really didn't know what a concussion was till my freshman year in high school. During my first season, I came out uninjured, and I played track in the off season to train for my sophomore year. I was high jumping actually, and I hit my head on the standard holding up the bar, and that's how I got my first concussion. I knew right away that I had a concussion, even though I didn't really know the symptoms because I felt dizzy, I had a headache, and I felt nauseous. I knew right away there was something wrong, and I reported it to my athletic trainer. I took a couple weeks off to recover, took some time off from school, and luckily enough, I was pretty much totally healed. I went through the rest of the summer and got ready for my football season, and during my sophomore year, I earned a starting spot on the varsity team. This was a huge deal for me. I worked really hard to play football, and I was excited to be there. About halfway through the season, in the 4th quarter, we were playing against our rival high school, and I put my head down, and immediately I had an instant of black. I had a helmet-to-helmet collision. I didn't really know right away what happened. The sun seemed really, really bright to me. I saw kind of colors. Everything was foggy. I went to the huddle. I didn't know what plays they were calling. I couldn't remember them. I finished up the game, though, and immediately I decided that it would probably be best for me if I didn't tell anybody and I kept playing. I loved football, and I didn't want to miss a game. So I kept through the season, playing with my concussion, practicing 4 days a week, slamming heads against the rest of my teammates, then going out on Saturday and slamming heads even harder against my opponents. I decided near the end of the year that as soon as the season was over, I would report it and take time off and I'd be fine. Unfortunately, I didn't quite make it that far. The day before our final game on Thanksgiving, we had a tradition where we would wrestle each other in the locker room on a tile floor, which seems like a pretty awful idea now that I think about it, but we really didn't think about it then. So I was wrestling a buddy of mine. I was winning, I promise you, but he slammed me over onto my head, and I don't remember anything, but there's a video, and it looks pretty bad. I was unconscious for about a minute. The first thing that my friends told me happened is I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know who we were playing. I didn't know about the game tomorrow. They put me in my locker where I was semi-conscious and couldn't really talk. Eventually, they decided it would be best if they brought me to the athletic trainer, which they did. And the first thing I remember was waking up in the athletic trainer's office, trying to figure out what happened to me, but even though I didn't know, my first instinct was to tell her, oh, I'm fine, nothing bad happened. Luckily, she was a lot smarter than I was in my concussed state, and she sent me to the hospital with my mom. When we got to the hospital, I told the doctors that I'd been playing on a concussion. They gave me a CAT scan. Luckily, my head there was no further damage. There was no bleeding in my brain, but I did sustain 2 concussions within 5 weeks. I spent some time away from school, spent some time away from working out, and I recovered. Luckily, after about a month, I was totally healed. So I went to my junior football season. I made it about 8 weeks. No, I made it 10 weeks. And in the semifinals of our state championship playoff run, I put my head down, and once again, I got a concussion. It didn't seem so bad, so I said, okay, there's a week left. I'll just finish it out. And I did. I had headaches constantly, but I decided it was more important to play with the team and win the title. Following the season, I took some time off from school and working out to recover, and once again, I healed. My senior year, with 2 games left in the season, the same thing happened. I was playing, I forget who I was playing, but I put my head down, I got another concussion, headaches right away, I knew there was an issue, but I finished up the season. It was my senior year, and I just wanted to play, so I did. I finished up the year, and like last year, I took a week off after the season from school to recover. and I didn't work out. After my senior season, I committed to play football at Yale University, which I was very excited for. It had been a dream of mine my entire life to play college football, and I was finally there. As soon as I got there for preseason, when we were doing our physicals, the head of student health at Yale actually took me aside and talked to me about the dangers of concussions and the importance of reporting them. I told him I knew it and I was fine and it would totally be okay. Unfortunately, about a week into preseason, I was doing a drill that I'd done 100 times before in high school, but I was going against somebody much bigger, much faster, and much stronger, and I decided once again to put my head down. Our heads collided, and right away, again, I knew I had a concussion. This one, however, didn't seem as bad as the ones I had before. The headache wasn't as bad. I didn't feel nauseous right away. Eventually, I got a headache, and I felt lightheaded, but it wasn't as severe as before. I talked to my mom, and she convinced me to report it. So I did. I went to the trainer, and I told her I thought I had a concussion. They sat me out. After about a week of doing nothing and trying to heal, I realized something was wrong. I started having memory lapses. I'd get up off the couch to get a Gatorade, and I wouldn't know why I was standing up. I'd go to meet somebody for lunch, and I'd forget who I was meeting. This could happen multiple times, and sometimes I would remember, sometimes I wouldn't. This had never happened to me before with any of my concussions, and I was really scared. I went back to my trainer, and she told me I had to stay away from football totally. No meetings, no nothing for a while, so I did. After a couple of weeks, the symptoms didn't get better, and she told me that I would have to quit football. It was my freshman year. I worked really hard to get there, and I wasn't okay with this. I wanted to transfer schools or go anywhere that would let me play. My impact test scores, which measures cognitive function, had gone down in short-term and long-term memory from the 70th and 80th percentile to the 3rd, and they didn't get better from early October till Thanksgiving. It was around this time that I realized I shouldn't be playing football, and I agreed that I would quit. I got very depressed at this point, between concussions and head injuries actually being a cause of depression, and losing football, which had been the center of my life for so many years. It was really hard for me. I still had memory lapses. I couldn't concentrate, and school was difficult, and it became very, very hard for me. Around second semester, during my freshman year, I went to the Office of Disabilities, and they actually assigned me a note taker to take notes in class because I couldn't process the information the professor was telling me, and I couldn't hold it in my head long enough to take it and write it down on paper. I needed extra time on tests because I had to constantly take breaks to walk around so I wouldn't get a headache and so I could concentrate. And I needed ADD medication because I still had trouble concentrating and remembering things. I finished up my freshman year like that, and I saw little recovery. I'm now in my sophomore year, and I feel like I'm getting better every day, but I truly believe that it wasn't getting concussions that caused me to have these issues. It was playing on all of these concussions. I had an amazing support staff. I had my coaches, my trainers, and my parents that I could have gone to with any of these concussions, and they would have helped me do the right thing, but I didn't. Concussions are an injury that shouldn't be played with, and sometimes you have to see somebody to realize that there are negative outcomes that could happen if you do play with such injuries. And hopefully, now that I'm going around and talking to people and telling them this could happen and it could happen to you, I just hope that, if you do have an injury or if you think you might have a concussion, if you really love the sport and you don't want to miss any time, report it. You might miss a game, but you won't have to quit the sport you love years before you should. That's all. Thank you very much.